What's going on right here, everybody? And welcome to a scripting tutorial. Now today we're just going to be building a basic sword, and then we're going to make some scripts, and it's basically just going to tell the sword to give us money, or whatever we want to call it, when we click. So let's get into it. So first thing what we're going to do is obviously we're just going to build a sword really quickly. So let me see here. It's not going to be too complicated, just something simple here. Um, Let me just, I don't know, we're gonna make something cool here. I don't know, metal. Yeah, metal looks cool. I like that. Then we're gonna insert a handle. So if you don't already know, let's get down to business here. So all tools that you want to have the player hold, which I mean all tools pretty much do. I don't know, there might be exceptions, who freaking knows? Um, you're gonna want them to uh hold on. I'm trying to figure this out. Just making like a basic sword here. You're gonna want, so I'll tell you how tools work really quickly, like in a kind of basic way. I'll try to explain it as best I can here. Okay, I'm sorry if I can't explain it to like the fundamental degree. So if you still don't get it at the end of this, I'm sorry. I'm trying. Um, there's only so much I can do. Okay, but so let me just do this. Is that too thin? I don't know. I don't think so. We'll try this here. I don't think it's too big. Uh, that works, I guess. And then we'll do reflection 1. Then we're just going to rotate it 90 degrees. Anyways, so like I said, I was getting down to business and then I got a little stalled here. Trying to fix this. It works, I guess. I mean, it's not any. No. That looks like crap. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'll push it inward a little bit here. That looks a little better. I can accept this. So what we're gonna do, okay, is we see how this stuff here, 4 objects to make the tool. What we're gonna do is we're gonna grab the part the person's gonna hold. What we're gonna do is we're gonna rename that to handle. So every tool that you make, we're just gonna insert a tool into the workspace. So a tool, so it's an empty tool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our 4 parts here for this thing. We can even just drag it here and just put them into the tool. And there we go. It's now a tool. So when we pick it up in game, we're gonna get it. So we're gonna call this sword. Now, very basic stuff going on. So next thing we're gonna do is we are going to create a weld all. Now you're gonna want to get a plug-in for this, which I will link all this stuff in because I'm gonna be using 2 plugins to make my life a lot easier and probably yours too once you get into this. So I'll link those and then they'll be in your studio and you're just going to want to select all your parts in the tool. Don't select the tool itself. Just select the parts and then click weld all. That's basically going to create binds between all of the parts and make sure, and the reason we're welding is because you don't want to anchor any of the parts. Do not anchor any parts in a tool. You want to weld them, okay? Because if you anchor them, then when you spawn in and you're just sitting there and you want to put in your tool, it's always going to be in this exact position. So when you try to equip it, your hand's going to be empty, or maybe the handle will come with you, but basically, the handle might teleport, but basically the entire sword is just going to be over here the entire time. It's going to look weird. So, um, you want to weld tools, okay? Do not anchor them. Okay, so next plugin, Tool Grip Editor. I'll also have that in the description. So this weld didn't actually work, so let me just do something here. I don't know why this isn't working. What? Hold on. Tool grip editor, sword. There we go. Okay, so if it doesn't work, just click it a few more times. Just only do weld all because this one it only works for 2 objects. This works for all objects within a tool. So next we're just going to rotate it. Um, so you basically, this is what it's going to look like when the player holds the tool. Okay, but I think this looks good. So now we have a tool. Alright, so now we're just going to put this in the starter pack. Basically, the starter pack makes it so that when the player, so when you spawn in, basically a new player will enter into this service here, and you'll have something called a backpack. I'll actually show you. So this is called the player service. So basically, when you spawn in, so this player service, this is see how you're here now? So basically, you have something called your backpack. So, right? So basically, when you equip a tool, see when it's not equipped, it's actually just sitting in your backpack. Okay, right? I don't know where it is. Inventory. Okay, your backpack. It's just sitting here. Okay, the entire time. So, but when you equip it, it actually goes onto your person, aka your character. So, right here, the sword is now on your character when you equip a tool. Okay, that's how tools work. So just keep that in mind. Just to get the understanding of like where it goes and stuff like that. So next, we're actually going to start scripting. So let's insert a script into the server script storage or service, and we're just going to script ourselves a leader stats. Let me just spell that right. So we're going to do typical stuff. So game.players.player added connect, not that function with the player. So little problem. If you don't understand functions, variables, things like that, basic stuff, inbuilt functions, because this player added event, this is an inbuilt function, okay? Built-in, inbuilt, I don't know, but doesn't matter. If you don't know what any of those are, it's not really my problem. I'm sorry. You can copy the script, but the thing is, I kind of recommend that you try to learn how to do it yourself. You're really gonna understand this really easily if you could just get a grasp on it. Okay, so go watch Alvin Blocks or something. Okay, he does a really good job. I'm not here to teach you everything about scripting to get this done. I'm just getting the job done. So like maybe you learned a little bit of inbuilt functions and now you're trying to apply it, but you don't know how, so I'm here to help. But I'm not here to teach you everything, okay? I'm just here to teach you how to apply these things, okay? That's all I'm doing. So, local leader stats. So this is a variable equals instance. Oh my god. I'm sorry. Instance.new folder inside of the player. Leaderstats.name equals, okay, now I will inform you on this. In your player, it's going to insert something called leader stats, okay, but it has to be a very particular name. So when you have, like, it doesn't matter what the variable name is. Okay, I could call this LOL or something like that, okay? But this stuff, instance not new folder inside of the player, this name, okay, has to be very particular. When you name your leader stats, it has to be this exactly. Leader stats with a lowercase l. Okay, now obviously I'm going to rename this here. Just remember that whenever you make a leader stats in your game, whatever you want to do, and you want to make a leader stats, and you want to add like strength and cash, you have to name your leader stats this. Okay, and it has to be in your player. Okay, so let's do local sword skill is equal to instance.new int value inside of the leader stats. Okay, so anything inside of your leader stats is going to be an int value, and it's going to have a name. but it has to be inside of your leader stats. Okay, so there's very particular things that have to be the case. I am very sorry about that. Alright, so now we have created our leader stats and we named our sword skill value or whatever. So let's go ahead and yeah, here we go. Yeah, and there it is, sword skill. Boom. We now have sword skill. So now we're gonna make something. So we're gonna put starter character scripts. And we're gonna put a local script. So anything inside of your starters. Okay, this is basically scripts that are gonna run with either your player or with your character. So we're gonna call this send. What am I gonna call this? Send remote, I guess. Send remote signal. I don't know. Sig. And I'll get into this here. Also, you need to know about remotes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You have to. I don't teach this stuff. Okay, I could, but this is not the point of this tutorial. Okay. Once again, I have to reiterate that it's not the point. So. Now that that's out of the way, let's do local player equals game get service players dot local player. So now we're gonna get the sword. Local sword equals should be player dot character wait for child sword, I believe. And because obviously, remember when we spawn in, right? So think about this. When we spawn in, where is the sword? I'll even show you, okay? Where is the sword when we spawn in? It's in our backpack, right? When we equip it, where did it go? It's not in our backpack anymore. Remember what I said. It's on your character. So player.character, your model, what's actually in the game. So that's what this variable means, okay? Player.character, wait for child sword. So it's gonna wait for the sword to be in the character, okay? So then we're gonna do sword.activated connect function. We're gonna add a debounce. So if debounce is equal to false, then debounce is what the fuck? There we go. True. Wait to debounce is equal to false. So basically, debounce makes it so that the script only runs when this condition is true. So think of it as a stopper. So like, we can run it. So sword.activated, we can run it only if debounce is false. So if debounce is false, then debounce is now true, right? So then you have to wait 2 seconds. Then it's going to be set to false again so that this if statement will be satisfied and then it can run again. So now what's the point of this? Well, it's so that we can send the signal. And of course I forgot. Local remote equals game get service replicated storage dot remotes dot I guess send skill. Now you're probably wondering, where the hell is this? What does this mean? Well, I'm gonna create that right now in the replicated storage. So we're gonna create a folder called remotes. Then we're gonna create a remote inside of that, or remote event. We're gonna call that send skill. There it is, right there. So then we're gonna do remote fire server player, I believe. I don't remember exactly. I'm gonna hope that this is what it is. So send fire server player. Basically, it sends the player through this server event. So now you're okay. So basically, what is it doing? So basically, what this does is when the player activates their sword, so basically they have their sword on them, right? So it's going to be in their character, like I said. Then what's going to happen is when they click sword.activated, that's the function for when a tool is activated. Basically, it just means when somebody left clicks, it's going to connect a function. So if the debounce, basically, it only runs this code, this fire server thing, if the debounce is false, and then debounce is true, and then you have to wait for it to run again, for it to be able to run again. So basically, this function, what I'm saying is that this function will basically deactivate for 2 seconds, because basically, you know how lines, basically scripts, they will run through line to line. So if it's true and we have to wait 2 seconds to get past this, then what's going to happen is this is going to always be false, so this won't run until you wait the 2 seconds, and then it's equal to false again, right? Then it can run again. So that's what a debounce is. Like, I'm trying my best here, okay? But so now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and so why are we firing the server? So this basically means it's gonna be remote handler. I will call it like remote store thing. I don't know, remote handler, I guess. I don't know. So local remote is equal to, now we're gonna get the remote, okay? Because this is only dealing for remotes now. Game get service replicated storage dot remotes dot let's go remote dot on server event, because it's a remote event, not a remote function. If it was a remote function, it'd be on server evoke, but we're not going to talk about that. Connect function player, and then we're going to do player dot leader stats dot sword skill dot value is equal to, then we're just doing a very typical scripter move. There it is, +5. Now let's break it down. So we remember that when our sword's equipped, we when it clicks, what's gonna happen? Okay, sword dot activated. If the debounce is false, then debounce is true. We already know what that is. Okay, I just explained it. You can go back if you need to. It's gonna fire the remote server, and remember the fire server has a parameter where you can send something through, and in this case, we want to send the player through. Basically, what this does is that when we go back to a remote handler, remember how I say remote on server event? This is calling it, basically. It's essentially just calling it. Okay, so remote fire server. So it's firing, basically. So basically means that we can call this in like another script, for instance. So when we call it, we're going to use the same parameter. Remember? Fire server player, it's going to pass this parameter through into when we call it. So now we can access the player in the leader stats. So now let me explain this. This is the final part. So dot leader stats, because remember, that's what it's called for the actual in the game. That's what it's called. Remember, leader stats? That's what it's called, okay? Because the variable is irrelevant, okay? The variable is irrelevant. It's actually in the game that matters. What we want is what's in the game, because that's what we can access. We can't access this variable. This variable just represents this. Okay? But this is global. This isn't. This is local. Okay? It's only local to this script. That's why we want leader stats. So, oh shit, whoops. So, player.leaderStats, and we have to just kind of infer this. So we look at the player, we look at the leader stats, and then we look inside of the leader stats, which is sword skill. It's basically this is what so the reason I did this square bracket, in case this is confusing, is because you can't just do this. You can't do this, right? Because remember, sword skill has a space in it, right? So you can't just do that. So basically, there's a way to get around it. You just do this, and you write a string, and there you go. Dot value equals player dot later stats value dot value plus 5. So it basically takes the value and equals it to the same value but plus 5. Now I'm gonna go over kind of like a review sort of once I test it out, make sure it works. I'll just quickly review after I'm done. So take a look, and there we go. It works. See, and obviously you can tell. Listen to my clicks. See how it only registers every 2 seconds? That's because the debounce. Remember. So now I'm gonna go over kind of like a review just to help you get an intuitive idea of what the scripts mean. Okay, just in case you're like a really new scripter. So let's take a look. Alright, so let's just review. So the first script we made was leader stats. So game.players.player added :connect function in the player. So when the player added, so this function, player added, this built-in function, has a parameter player. It's always the player. It's never something else. So we're going to pass the player through because we already know what this is, because this is just the player, right? We can call it whatever we want, like X. We can call it Y. We can call it Z. But it's always going to represent the player. Okay? It's always the player in this player added event. So next thing, look at leader stats. We made a leader stats folder, instance.new folder inside of the player. This is just a notation, right? It's simpler. You'll see some people do this. Leader stats.parent is equal to player. And essentially, this is the exact same thing. This is the exact same thing. It's just a different notation, and it's simpler and it's easier. Leader stats.name equals leader stats. Remember, very precise. It has to be exactly this inside of your player. Sword skill. So just create another variable. This time it's an int value and it's inside of leader stats. Sword skill.name is sword skill. Okay, so the next thing we made was the send remote signal. So we got the player. We got our sword, which is inside of the character when it's equipped, right? And then we got our remote from game get service replicated storage dot remotes dot send skill game dot replicated storage dot remotes send skill sword dot activated. So when you click your mouse with the sword while it's equipped, it's going to connect to a function. Then I talked about the debounce. Remote fire server, it's going to send this player parameter. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be a brick. It could be a object. It could be an idea. It could be a building. It could be, I don't know, my PS4. But in this case, we're going to call it the player. Okay. Yeah, the reason it's play. Oh wait, I forgot to say. We actually have to have a variable called PS4. So we have to have like PS4 is equal to, or sorry, local PS4 is equal to stuff. Okay. And stuff is just, I don't know, gibberish. Okay. We have to have a variable, and we put the variable in there. We don't just put anything in there. As a far right. So like if building, we put building in there. Building has to be a variable that's already defined. Okay. But in this case, we send the player through. Remote fire server. That's just the notation for sending it. Okay. Then we wait 2, then it reactivates, and we can send it again. So then we go to our remote handler. We get the remote. That's all we need. Okay. Because in the remote handler, all we're dealing with is when the fire server happens. Okay. So remote.onServer event :connect. So when the server is fired on this thing, this is going to register and pick up when it's fired. This is what this function means. and it's going to pass the same parameter with the exact same parameter as what's passed on here. Okay, so player in this case. So it's basically sending this variable into this script. It's pretty cool. So player.leaderstats, remember the name. Okay, it has to be very specific. Sword skill dot value is equal to the same thing but +5. That is it. That is how you do it. Okay, that is literally it. That is about as simple and dumbed down I can get it for you guys. Okay, and as you can tell, every 2 seconds I get 5 sword skill. And obviously you look in the player, so we unequip it, or sorry, when we equip it, right, and we click, where's it at? Where is my character model? There it is, yeah. So the sword's here. So when it's activated, we get, oh yeah, I forgot to show you. Here's our leader stats. It's inside of our player. And we have an int value called sword skill. And it's going up. So that's cool. So yeah, that's literally it. That's how you do this. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, because I want to help you guys if you're struggling to comprehend some of like the ideas like around this, because I want to be there to help if you guys need help with this. But I'm pretty sure I covered it all. If I didn't, let me know. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this helped. And yeah, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Peace out.